problem is, Owen, that the Friday before the Monday that school started is when they told us. And 3 weeks prior, there was a bulletin sent out saying masks will be optional. Well, it seemed a little fishy that they decided to do this on a Friday before the Monday. I feel like they had sent out that bulletin almost a month before. They let everybody enroll. They let everybody buy uniforms and books. And then all of a sudden, now there's a danger because they say that cases are going up, positive cases are going up. And it caught everybody off guard. And, it's a little ridiculous.
So I have to be honest with you. Last week, we did the call-in special with parents calling in. And I got so scatterbrained after the news broke on Friday and some of the legal stuff that I've been doing that I kind of got off of that subject of discussion. And then I saw you on the schedule. And I was like, hey, guys, what is this guest? I'm so glad that you're on today because this is so amazing. Everything you just said is what every other parent has said about the mask mandates, where they said it was optional all summer long, and so that's what you were expecting. And then right before your kid goes back to school, they send you a bulletin saying, oh, masks are going to be mandatory. And so you don't really have time to respond. You don't really have time to try to fight back against it. Now your kid's in school. They're making them wear a mask. So this is incredible. I mean, what are the odds? I mean, I don't feel like this isn't a coincidence that every parent I've talked to said they told us it would be optional, and then right before school started, they mandated it. Are you getting that same intel? I'm sure that other school, parents that have kids in school have reached out and communicated with you. Is this the case nationwide?
Yeah, so that's what's happening. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening that, I want to say make sense. If you use your common sense, you can put two and two together. That has become the least common of all the senses, apparently, all over the country, because it does make a lot of sense that why would they say masks are not going to be optional a month prior? Literally across the country, they would have lost probably millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of tuition money of people deciding to do something else. And not buying books and not filling their uniform quotas, So it's kind of funny that all across the country, this happened last minute on the Friday before. And they know that, not a lot of people have the finances to pull their kids out or have somebody that can watch their kids, to homeschool, to do Zoom. They offer you the Zoom option, sure, but now you're doing double the work. You're paying the same tuition as well. And, when it comes down to it, you can have your right to mask your child. You can have those rights. That's fine. But my right to mask my child, especially for something, and that's my big claim, especially for something that the science is literally pointing in the direction that this is not. And hey, look, I'm using the CDC. I'm not even going on on some QAnon website or something like that. And not to say there's not a lot of truth in those websites, but there are some far-fetched things on both sides sometimes.
No, the point is you're going to the establishment that's making all these mandates, and they agree with what you're saying.
Well, what happened is this. We went to the Diocese of, because the way it works also, so, just so you guys understand, you got about 20 private Catholic schools from St. Pete to about Naples, Florida on the West Coast. And so the Diocese of Venice kind of governs, or that's their jurisdiction. It's almost like, they're the federal government, so whatever law they say, that's what all the schools have to follow. So there's a lot of people in the staff of the schools that, the teachers, some of the principals, I'm sure that they don't like it. They agree with us, but they're not going to say so because nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody wants to be shunned. Nobody wants to be, humiliated. The majority, of course, is going to be that, they gotta abide by the rules, and that's the science. And there's this phrase that's the science, but it's almost ironic because nobody's looking at the science. I mean, if you look at the CDC website, anybody can go look this up right now, and you go on the CDC website, there's a part that says the provisional deaths. They update it on a weekly basis, and it says sex and age, and it tells you. And I look it up every day. 614,000 and change deaths total since COVID started. You can read there very clearly till today. And the amount of people between the ages of 0 to 17 deaths is 361. And if you actually click in the comorbidities section, you're going to see that about 85% of everybody in those numbers had pre-existing conditions, but not just one, multiple ones. I mean, multiple ones. You know,
well, let's expand on that, because this is actually so key, and this is the biggest frustration for me, and I'm sure it frustrates you too, is you've actually looked at the numbers, you've actually done the research, you try to lay this stuff out to people that haven't, and they just don't want to listen. They don't want to believe you. I think the official number that the CDC announced was 80% of the COVID deaths were comorbidities, meaning they didn't die from COVID. They died from cancer, they died from a number of other things, not from COVID. And so you just say, hey, look, here's the numbers. Why should I be afraid of this? But they don't care. It's never been about science. I played a clip the other day where a scientist is on a mainstream news in England, and the guy's like, hey, here's some of the science that says hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin works. And he just goes, no, I don't believe that. No. And he shows them the studies, he shows them the reports, and he's like, no. So it's not about science, it's about their science. It's about what science they want. Not about science, it's about their agenda.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what we found frustrating. I mean, I presented all this evidence. You know, I actually came out with the percentage, and it's something like 0.019% of children in the country have died. I don't even want to say of COVID. I want to say with COVID. And no healthy children are dying. If you do the research and you actually do some digging, of the 361, almost all of them had pre-existing conditions. I mean, these are babies that are born to, drug-addicted moms. These are children that have cancer. These are children that had a limited time to live anyway, and they somehow came out COVID positive, and so they're a COVID death. You know, which is false reporting. It's
well, that was another thing. I mean, there's a whole book, How to Lie with Statistics. They came out and they found there were people that died from gunshot wounds. They reported it as COVID. I mean, literally, you show up flatter than a pancake. You got hit by a Mack truck, and they test you for COVID. You test positive. They say, oh, he died of COVID.
That's exactly what's happening. And the worst part is that even on the CDC website, which is very suspect, okay, if you go into the comorbidities, right, they begin to divide the categories of age differently than on the general section where it breaks down the ages and how many people died in each age group in the total deaths in the provisional sex and age category. So if you go to sex and age, for example, the 0 to 17.
We got to go to a break here. Jose, hold it right there. Finish your thought on the other side, and then